I'm Aaron, this is the Lone Star Drift Channel, and what we're doing today is I brought out 3 of the exact same cars because we're the day before round 5 of Lone Star Drift at Gulf Grand Hunt Park, and I thought it'd be fun to look at 3 different cars and try to decide what is best. So what we have here are 3 very different E36 BMWs, and we have one which is a Pro-Am car that makes probably about 650 wheel horsepower, something like that. The little tiny stock 328, which probably makes 170 wheel horsepower, I don't even know, maybe 180 wheel. And then we have an M3. It's an M3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And he makes probably about 200 wheel, I'd guess, maybe a little bit more, something like that. So each one is built for a different reason. One is for Instagram likes, one is to get the most amount of laps possible, and one is to burn off tires as fast as possible. So 3 very different cars. I'm gonna bring the drivers over for a second. We're just gonna kind of chat about them, the differences between the cars, because a lot of people think like, I want a missile car, or I want a huge power car, or I want a stance, like cool looking car. And you should really kind of understand the benefits and the problems with each one, because some of these guys like Colin actually have both. So he'll tell you what he likes about that car and what he doesn't. The car does have air conditioning. I don't think the others do. Obviously there's gonna be lots of differences. They're all caged race cars though. But come here guys, come here. So this is Colin, Max, and Michael. Michael drives the red big power one, he drives the missile one, and he drives the air conditioned stance one. Okay, so we're basically gonna ask you guys questions. Come stand in front of the cars. All right.
Michael first.
Come here. Yeah, you're not gonna get them all in there. The wind's kind of bad. All right, Michael, what's the best part about this car and the worst part? And just kind of talk about having a crazy, turbo Pro-Am car.
I would say the best part is it drives really, really well. I can pretty much put it anywhere on track that I want. It has power and wheel speed to do pretty much anything. Tons of angle. Worst part, it's expense to run. It's way too expensive to run. I can blow through 10 tires in a weekend easily. I try to budget like 4, but basically if I lay on the throttle really hard and make a smoke show, my wallet is not happy with me. So I would say expense to run is probably the worst part.
And if you were to build this thing differently, would you build it any differently, or you'd build it exactly like this again?
I might put a little bit more displacement in the engine. It's only 2.9 liter and it's low compression, and I'd probably put a slightly smaller turbo on it just to make it a little bit easier to manage the power band, because it'll be nothing, and then light switch, 600 wheel torque. So it just blows the tires apart when that happens.
Yeah. I've driven this car before, and I would say it almost feels like it has no grip because it has so much torque. It just blows the tires off and almost feels like ice skating sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of confusing because you would think you would feel like it has a ton of grip, but when the torque comes on so quickly, it just blows the tires up and ice skates. Show us around the car real quick. Let's see the engine bay. And I have driven this car. It's a really, really good car, obviously.
So it's a built engine. It's an M52, which is out of a 328 like Max's. Then it's got custom pistons, rods, and SuperTech valve train stuff. But it's actually been together since 2009. So I've had this engine running for a long time, and it's made 600 wheel basically the whole time. I never turned down the power. I love that it always works. It always starts. I run RK-Tuned stock ECU, so I just hit the key and go. I actually don't have a key, but it always starts. And so many people, that's an issue with drift cars where they're finicky and they just, it starts like stock. I just run and drive it, and hopefully I can afford the tires on it.
This is cool looking. This is to keep your coil packs alive?
Yeah, so the ignition and all the wires are right under that, so basically just to heat shield it. I can't remember who actually makes this, but it bolts into a factory location of the valve cover, so it's pretty neat.
That's really nice. Okay, and just to be clear, this thing does not have air conditioning, correct? Okay,
definitely
so you
does
can
not.
tell
You see the sweat?
Yeah, he's very sweaty. It's not a comfortable car to drive. Would you want to try and make this thing more comfortable, or there's no point because it's trailer driven everywhere, so you might as well just have it a full race car, you know what I mean?
So I actually looked into that, thought about, I have full doors, so I could actually add back power windows if I got really ambitious and try to add AC, but so much is missing already because I bought it as a cage shell that I would have to put back the heater box and AC and all this stuff. And doing like a proper race car AC like in NASCARs is like $3,000. So it's not even really worth it. At that point, just build a different car that has AC, which I'm actually doing. So
how much do you think it would reasonably cost someone to have this car built? You know what I mean? Or
think-
build it. Like, how much in parts do you think?
I think it's probably around $30,000 just in parts, plus
Okay.
labor.
So it would
it'd
probably be
be-
after some labor, double that, or
Probably
just a ton
double.
of your time.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's probably about a $60,000 car,
And-
roughly, give or take.
Of course, it actually took me a lot more money than that because I went through iterations of everything. You know, when you build a car, you learn, change suspension multiple times, change turbo setups. So if I were to do it in one shot, it would be 30. But for sure, you know, not everyone gets it right the first time.
And also to think about, it's going through typically probably about $1,000 in consumables per weekend between fuel and tires and maybe little tiny knickknacks that break at the minimum just to run it. That doesn't include entry fees, trailering at places, you know, like fuel in the tow rig, trailer, anything else. So it just kind of gives you an idea of like how much it costs to run. This is basically the best of the best for something like this, I think. You really couldn't get any better than this build other than making more boost or having, you know, grippier tires or things like that. Do you agree?
I agree.
Like, this is about as good as it gets for this E36.
Pretty much. The next step is all Pro 2 stuff. Quick change, dog box, and that's, you know, another 10 grand
Dog
you're talking
box,
about.
sequential, man. You're thinking like
6.5.
last year.
A
Sequential.
G-Force GSR would be fine for me, man. I don't need a Samsonite.
A couple little things I'll point out real quick. It does have a stock intake manifold real quick. Like, you know, that's kind of cool. There's a lot of stock stuff still going on in this car. It still has a stock transmission. You know, it does have a huge turbo, like bolted to it kind of thing, but it's not that crazy. You know what I mean? Like, it's even the stock type of engine in here. It's not an engine swap of a different kind. And it's stock cams still.
Stock cams,
Yeah.
and it still has stock axles too. So stock drive shaft, stock axles, stock transmission, stock cams.
Stock diff.
Not a stock diff. It's
Okay.
got a bigger diff in it.
So it's basically, this sounds stupid, it's not really a stock engine, but you know, it's a mostly stock engine with rods and pistons and like head studs and things like that and head gasket. It's not some crazy ported head, it's not cams, is it crazy valve train?
Nope. Stock valve. I mean, it's just like upgraded springs and retainers, but no bigger valves, no porting, no dry sump or anything crazy.
But it's pretty simple.
Yeah,
okay.
simple.
Thanks, Michael. Let's look at the next car.
You're welcome.
Oh, let's look at the interior real quick since we're comparing all these cars. It's just, look at this. It doesn't even have door handles. How do you get in and out?
It's the inside handle
Oh, okay.
only on this door.
But it's a cage, no nonsense car. No interior to speak of other than seats and just race car parts. It has a fuse blocks on the dash with switches and stuff, handbrake, shifter. It's a cool looking shifter, but it's just, you know, a stock transmission underneath it. So all business, nothing crazy. It does have these door cards. That is kind of nice. All right, next car. Come here, Max. All right, real quickly. The car itself is what we would call a missile car, and that's kind of, you can also call it a seat time car. You can call it lots of things. A lot of people know what a seat time or missile car is, but basically, he's trying to build a car that's as cheap as possible to get into drifting and get as many laps as possible. The car is a 328 BMW. I'll let you talk in just 1 second about your darn car. But I'm just joking. But it's basically keep the car as stock as possible to get as much laps as possible and deal with the fact that it's not an optimal drift car. It doesn't make as much power as you'd want. It doesn't have the best transmission. Maybe it does actually have a good transmission. Doesn't have the craziest angle kit. Doesn't, you know, like, it's the cheapest parts possible. So you tell us how you like it, how much you've spent and things like that, and go.
This is my missile car, but I guess typically you have two cars, and one of them's your missile car.
It's just
so-
a shitty car.
Yeah,
It's just a
this
shitty
is my shit car. Like Aaron said, it's a 98 328i. I'm probably about $3,000 into the car total. It lasts forever on tires. It's a M52 motor in here. All I did to the car, I bought it from Mark. It had BC coilovers on it. I put E46 front lower control arms, Condor offset lollipop bushings to give it a little more caster so it would, I guess, self-steer better, and then Amazon knuckles and a 391 diff in the rear, and that's it. I've got some XXR wheels. They sponsored the car, so I was lucky enough to get some awesome looking 18s to actually make the car look a little bit cool. And besides that, I just drive it and check the oil every once in a while, and it rips.
What's the best part about this car and what's the worst part about this car?
The best part is that it's really good on tires. I mean, I can buy $50 Westlakes a piece and I'll bring 4 just to like be safe to make sure I have enough tires. And typically I'll go through like one set, maybe 1.5 if I'm driving a lot. And by a lot, I mean like 100 plus laps, maybe 150.
Yeah.
You know, I'll go through a tank of gas in an event easily. The worst part is that I'm lazy, and the things that do break on this car, like hoses and cables and things that are hard to get to, and that can just be a pain in the ass to work on sometimes.
Okay.
And that it's ugly.
Show us around the car real
All
quick.
right, this is my hood pins on my stock car, thanks to Mark Williams. It's a completely stock BMW motor, stock airbox. Yeah, everything's stock. There is a spout fan on it that I think Mark put on, and that seems to really help keep the car cool and allow me to hot lap it. But yeah, besides that, it's a pretty stock motor. Sorry, I'll talk at the camera instead of turning away from you.
There's literally nothing aftermarket in here. It still even has the aftermarket like evap system and everything, or sorry, the stock evap system. They haven't deleted any of the emission stuff. Having the stock airbox is kind of crazy.
I kind of want to get rid of it, but again,
this is the resonator to make it sound good.
That's why it sounds amazing.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting to see a build like this.
Really, the interior is kind of, there's more going on in there.
And
There's
here,
door handles.
basically all he's done here is he put a steering wheel on it, he put a cage in it, he did a handbrake off of the stock handbrake, so it's just a bar welded on to give him more leverage.
And I didn't even
seats,
do
obviously.
that. So I bought the car with coilovers, with the steering wheel setup, with the handbrake, with the seat. The only thing I did was the bolt-in cage, and that's it. So that was my whole goal. You know, I've gone through the motions of buying a 240 that you have to do the swap and buy all the parts for and build up, and you spend a year even trying to dial in a simple stock SR setup, to where this go around I was like, I want to buy somebody else's car that most of the stuff's done to it. I can put little things here and there that are, you know, just easy mechanical stuff, and then just go beat the shit out of it.
So your consumables, just to be clear, for a weekend are probably about $100 to $200 in tires and a tank of gas?
Yeah.
Okay, pretty easy.
And our whole campaign, not that it's a campaign, but we call the car the Free 36 because that's the only thing I want to spend money on is consumables.
Yeah.
I'm not buying body kits. I'm not buying intakes to make the car faster. I'm not putting an exhaust on it to get more horsepower. I'd rather put that money into driving.
How does it actually drift?
It drifts pretty well. The eBay knuckles have, I guess it over centers. So you'll kind of go to angle and it'll kind of pull, but it's nothing that even someone as inexperienced as me can't drive around. So the car drifts really well, and it seems to keep up with a lot of the Z's, and even some of the faster cars that make probably 50 to 100 more horsepower than me.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's just the suspension geometry on the BMW that's just, it works well. And I struggle, but if I just plan ahead and try and put the car where it needs to go and not don't let off,
Yeah.
it seems to do pretty well in tandem with other cars.
Awesome, thank you. Colin, you're up. Let's do this. All right, so Colin has the Instagram car. It looks rad. It's built to look rad. He has a Pro-Am car just like Michael's, which is no hold back, as fast as you can go, like crazy car. And then he was like, I want to drive in Texas Street Legal this year and have the cleanest car ever. And he went from the most aggressive tandem driver, like flying through the air where we're yelling at him to like quit throwing the car at TMS 4 feet in the air. We have pictures of it, it's wild. Oh my God. Oh my God. Down to like, I don't want to scratch my stance car. It's too pretty. He's like, look at how low it is. I can't go over bumps. So he built a very unique car, which is very different than his Pro-Am car. It's probably gonna have similar consumables to this, but just look really, really cool. But it also means like, look at this. This car can be wrecked. You just get right back in and keep driving. If this thing gets wrecked,
I'm gonna cry.
he's gonna cry. So tell us about the car real quickly. Tell us the best part and the worst part about this car.
The best part, like by far, it just looks awesome, and to put so much time into something and make it look nice is like really rewarding. The worst part, it's really just like the fact that I haven't really gotten used to the car yet because I haven't had it for super long. So I'm still getting used to it, so I'm not like driving super close yet and stuff. But I mean, eventually that's gonna have to happen, and I'm gonna have to kind of, hit people and stuff. But we're just gonna fix it. But just again, the best part is just having something, like putting a lot of time into something and getting to see it.
But then what happens when it gets wrecked? It gets wrecked.
You just fix it again.
Just fix it? Okay.
Yeah.
How well does it function? Because like it is crazy low in the back if you look side. It's like tucking wheel.
Yeah. I mean, it works. You know, I wouldn't really recommend like dirt dropping it at like
Yeah.
HPA or something, but it works. It definitely like.
Does it work better than this
Good.
car, do you think? On track? Or do you think the junk car works better than your car? And you know what I mean? Is there a lot of give since these cars are very similar?
Yeah.
Maybe you have another 20 horsepower because you have an like a S52 M3 motor, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this car is probably a little bit faster, but obviously it's way lower and looks way cooler. But does the being super low hold it back, do you think?
I mean, kind of. It's not really that the car can't do what this car can. It's just more like you have to be mindful of like, oh, I can't dirt drop or something because I'll ruin my side skirt. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But
Okay.
that's really it. Like, it definitely functions fine. It's just a matter of having
How
to think
different
about
is this than your Pro-Am car?
it. Oh, like literally night and day. Like you couldn't even. Just they're literally like opposites. They're
Yeah.
just not the same at all.
Which do you enjoy driving more?
Probably this because it has AC.
Really? Oh, because of AC?
Yeah, it's got AC, so it's a lot more comfortable.
What are the consumables on this thing in a weekend? How many tires do you go through?
Not many, because I'm on the same diff as him.
Yeah?
So we're both 391, so like we don't really, your wheel speed's never super high,
Mm-hmm.
because BMWs have really short gearing to begin with. So when you put a short rear end in it,
Mhm.
it just makes everything really short. So like I'm never like blasting fourth gear like, wah, you know what I mean? Like
You wouldn't have power to blast fourth gear.
yeah, true, but you know what I mean? Like it's pretty good on tires, even with all like the camber in the back.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Okay. It's rad looking. How long do you think that you can keep the car rad looking while drifting before you get frustrated with it and get in a couple of wrecks and then really start to beat on it? You know what I mean? Or do you think this car will always stay clean to you?
I mean, my plan is to just treat it like similar to the animal style guys, like where they just thrash the hell out of the car, then redo it for the next season. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, so
But,
far you're not driving like that though, you know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
driving very conservatively and keeping the car very nice. I've seen those guys drive and like their entire cars are thrashed by the end of like the first day.
Yeah, I mean, that's just because I'm not used to the car yet. You know what I mean?
Okay. So
But-
you do plan to drive like that?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Because I was gonna say in your other Pro-Am car, you drove incredibly aggressively. So it's very cool to watch and stuff. Did we already ask you about consumables? How much you use?
Yeah.
How many? 2 tires a
Oh.
day or 4?
I've never like counted because I've only ever driven it. This is like its third event or fourth event ever.
Mhm.
But if I had to guess this weekend, I'll only go through 2 sets, maybe
Okay.
3.
So it's very cheap then.
Yeah.
So literally the cost of the car after the season would save you like more than, how do you say? It costs more to run the Pro-Am car in tires than the entire car costs at the end of the year.
The Pro-Am
But-
car's tires could build you like 4 of these.
Yeah.
So, just for comparison.
Yeah. Okay. Let's show us around the car real quick. What's your favorite part of like the look of the car?
I mean, I don't really know.
Oh, it's a silver car. It's just like my silver one.
yeah. No, it was originally silver.
Mine is worn out right there too.
Yeah, they all just kind of fall apart after a while.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite part really, I don't know. I just kind of like how the whole thing came together.
Yeah.
Definitely the chrome tints. I like the chrome tint.
Look at this. The car's all style from the outside. The inside has like torn seats and stuff.
Yeah, it's the 8 seat. I just haven't gotten around to fixing
Yeah. I'm just joking. Look at this. This is crazy. I can't believe that works. Do I have a
Oh.
key in my pocket?
that. No, look, I can. Yeah, here.
Look at this. Oh, it does. Nope, doesn't fit a key.
No, you can only fit like a sticker. That's it.
Yeah.
But
Very cool.
yeah.
Should talk about how tough these cars are.
Oh my.
Oh yeah.
They are.
Why don't
tanks.
you guys tell us real quick? Colin, tell us how tough these chassis are.
Okay, these cars are like, they're kind of flimsy, like in the strut towers, but in terms of like taking hits, like I put my other car through his Corvette's door,
Yeah.
and like it was fine after. Like they're really sturdy when it comes to.
I still haven't billed him for that. I need to send him a bill, an invoice. He's like, Michael, have you rammed your car into stuff?
No, other people have hit me though.
How good is it? How tough is it?
It's really tough. Spencer like totaled the front of his car last year, like right here.
Mm-hmm.
My fender just popped off. I just riveted it back on.
Yeah.
Rudy hit me last round. He broke a headlight, broke the bumper, broke corner light, and I think I have a mark. I think it's like this scratch, but I'm not really sure. He just like hit this whole area, hit the tow hook, which probably screwed his life up. But yeah, I mean, I can't really seem to ding it very, very badly. I have a little bit of damage under this over from, I put it into a wall, I think like a year or two ago, but that's it. I mean, it's just crunched in a little bit. So, they're strong. Max has even more horse.
I've got a few. This is my hood prop, by the way. But this little mark right here
A lot cheaper, but
took out Cody Witherspoon's coilover, knuckle, and tie rod when he ran into me. I think on the other end here.
Should also mention Cody drives a Mustang.
Yeah,
Cody
I'm
drives
sorry.
a big
Cody's Mustang ran into me here, and yeah, it took out his whole front corner and left a little dent here. Connor Murphy ran into me back here, and it broke Connor's control arm. I hit Juan's 350Z, and it left a little dent in the side there. So it didn't take his car out, but effectively I've taken out a Mustang and a 240 already. Well, they've taken themselves out on me. But yeah, they're super tough. And I smoked a barrier on the front corner there. That was my fault.
All right, I think this video is about done. I was just gonna say a couple closing things. To be very clear, even though the cars look very similar, they are very different. Michael Van Schellenbeck's car will literally sustain drift in 4th and maybe even 5th gear. These cars are basically 2nd gear heroes. You can enter in 3rd, and then you're basically gonna have to shift down to 2nd immediately unless you have crazy weird gearing. But you know, they're gonna basically drift very well in 2nd gear, but they're not gonna drift in 3rd gear other than just an entry, you know, down the straight, shift 3rd gear, clutch kick in, drift around for, you know, a second as you're lowering speed because the engine's bogging and then shifting down to 2nd. You know, that is an absolute monster car. These are pretty cheap. This one I asked Colin, he said it'd take about 15 grand to replicate this car because it has some expensive parts on it, like the body kit, which cost a lot to ship. This car cost about $3,000, and then the Pro-Am Crazy one probably cost about 30 to 60 to build. You could of course build them differently and stuff and have, you know, a bit different, and the consumables are very different for each car. So these are much like, you would have to pick the type of place you drift to figure out what type of car you want, to, you know, see which one's actually better for you. A small parking lot event like this, you know, both these cars would be great, and that one's super overkill. Once we head to a place like Harris Hill where we're entering at 130 miles an hour, obviously that is gonna be a much better car. But even Chelsea Denofa, when he came down, he had an E36 with an S54 motor in it, and he was basically keeping up with us for the most part and doing 9/10 of the drifting we were doing in the big cars. Like, you really couldn't tell because he would just straighten out when he needed to because he didn't have huge torque. So yeah, different methods of building it. It would be cool to have Chelsea's car here too, because it was an S54, and it kind of is the in-between space, because those cars are still, the engine is, you know, not so maintenance intensive or expensive to run as, like, you know, a car with large consumables like that. It's just like one of these with another 80 to 100 horsepower. Cool, okay. Goodbye, Cy. Goodbye, audience. Bye, boom. So just one quick note to think about when you're, you know, thinking about these cars is you should pick cars that A, suit the track, but also suit the type of cars that your friends drive and everything. If all your friends have the exact same, you know, 150 or 200 horsepower car and that fits the track really well, if you build a 600 horsepower car, it might not be that much fun to tandem with your friends. You might have a lot more fun in a car that's really well suited, so you can lead, then they can lead, then you can lead, and it'll be really fun to chase people down. It's kind of like go-karts. If you've ever been go-karting and you have one kart that's way faster than the other cars, it's not that much fun because that guy always just drives away, gets a better time. It's not about who's the best driver or, you know, putting on a good fight. You have a much better time in go-karts when all the karts are very, very equal and you can chop it up with all your friends and have a really good time, and it's a good battle. So just, that's a good thing to think about.
What if you don't have friends?
Oh, brutal.
Does that work?
Oh yeah.